welcome back again for another Season 4 guide. This time, Brackenhide Hollow, or as we call it, Brickabrack. So, I think as most people know, before you can even tackle the first boss here, there's a requirement in this dungeon to free 5 Tuskar prisoners from their cages. So this kind of defines the kind of pulls and routes you can do early on. So mobs, in terms of what's important, you'll see there's a slightly different coloured health bar amongst all the mobs that I'm currently tanking, and that would be the War Scourge. I get that targeted and get it killed. It's got 2 abilities that you want to watch out for. He has a spinning attack, which can absolutely be dealt with if you have hunters or druids in your group that have Tranquil Soothe. Otherwise, just move away from those mobs while they're spinning. The other important kick that the mobs have, the War Scourges, is they have a cast. It's a cackle, and that will just fear anybody in the group, which during this, especially this early part of the dungeon, will definitely lead to a lot of, actually any part of the dungeon can lead to extra packs getting pulled unintentionally. You don't want the fear going off, so just a normal kick, you can deal with that. Other mobs you've got early on that are important to kind of note are the fighters. So the fighters can be a problem because they will randomly drop aggro on the tank and fixate a random player. Now, whatever player that is will get the usual fixate notification above their character, right? So they'll get like the red eyes. So if you see that, just treat it like you would any other fixate. So either use CC to your advantage, so stuns, knocks, fears, anything to keep them off you, slows, any kind of hard CC, you know, that roots them, or yeah, just deals with them permanently. Or you can just run away from them. Worst case scenario, completely fine. So this pack, you can see we've got another War Scourge. We've also got the Speakers that are casting. We've got the Mystics that are casting. Mystics are generally the ones you want to watch out for in these pools. Now the other thing you will see, I'm not sure you'll see it in this pack, but the other thing that can happen early on with some packs is you'll see a totem go down. If you do see a totem go down, especially before the first boss, you absolutely want to nuke it. Any totems that are put down will actually empower a lot of mobs' casts. So it becomes even more important that you can kick or stop a lot of those casts, and preferably just nuke that totem as fast as you can. You see the War Scourge about to spin up. It's unkickable and unstoppable. So again, a Soothe and a Trank is the way. The other thing is a lot of these mobs do run away at low health, so not to be confused with the fighters fixating a player as well. But again, running mobs do have a danger of pulling other packs if they head over to other stuff, so just keep an eye on that. Again, you know, soft CC of any kind, slows, tar traps, roots, yeah, anything like that is good. So you can see the route we're taking is just going to these glowing cages that have the Tuskar in them. Just need to free 5. Freeing 5 will literally make the first boss appear. It actually doesn't hurt as well to take a fair amount of trash early on in this dungeon, because there's a lot of trash requirement and there's a lot of skipping later on. So it actually kind of works out pretty decently anyway. Right, the thing I'm just pointing out for the group here, for those that are still relatively new to these dungeons, is if you have an alchemist in your group, you can find these little cauldrons, little pots, whatever they are, randomly throughout the dungeon, and an alchemist can actually open them. Everybody in your group can click on them, and it will actually give you an extra action button that you see there next to my character, the blue kind of bird silhouette. And yeah, you can actually use that as an extra action button whenever you get diseased, which a lot of mobs will do in this dungeon. So you see there we skipped around a pack, but I actually decide, as you'll see here, to go back and get them for that reason I literally mentioned earlier about it's worth pulling a little bit extra early on. In fact, we get to the end of the dungeon here and we still need a little bit of a percent, so I could have pulled even more here than what I thought. Something I'll be keeping an eye on for the next run. I mean, sometimes it can go your way anyway. If somebody accidentally pulls when you're trying to do one of the skips, you can end up getting too much trash. But generally you want to play as if, you know, people are going to play fairly cleanly and skip cleanly. You don't have to come this route that I took, a kind of weaving pattern to the sides. You can come straight down the middle. That'll get you some stuff as well. A few different kinds of mobs here. Again, notice the Mystic, notice the War Scourge spinning up, getting him soothed. A lot of kicks on these side mobs are getting ignored. Mainly, it's not, especially in this difficulty, right? This is only a 2, of course. Just getting new players used to this dungeon and refamiliarizing ourselves with it as well. So, again, not too bad. But we're sort of foregoing a lot of the kicks because everybody's making sure they've got a kick available for that War Scourge when he does his cackle. Now I miscounted here and didn't notice that we actually had our 5 prisoners freed now, so I actually pulled here because there's another cage up the back there that's a fairly easy one to get, so I did actually pull these 2 mobs, but again it didn't matter, the count was needed, so not a problem. And then again another War Scourge and a whole bunch of these fighters which are gonna do their fixate on a lot of random players. There they go. So again, I actually used a roar there to stop their fixate. And then on to the first boss. Okay, this boss gives a lot of people a little bit of trouble. Luckily it's had a few nerfs since the last time it was in an active season, so that's really nice. So the trick here is you can usually choose to take out either Trick Totem that you can see we've got marked here, who we actually are going to deal with first, just so that people can understand why he's important to deal with. But normally you can choose to take out Gashtooth first, the guy on the left. That's because he's technically more dangerous than Trick Totem. However, Trick Totem is the healer in this council style fight, so it doesn't hurt to make sure everybody's kind of focusing Trick Totem if you know your healer can handle it. And in this case, because it's a 2, healer's perfectly fine dealing with this. So yeah, the trick with Gashtooth, however, is that Gashtooth is a rogue style mob, so what that will do is it will shadow step to all the players and put a debuff on them. That's used to be a massive heal check, plus he'll then fixate on one player particularly and do a series of melee moves that do a fair chunk of damage that they need to be healed through. Trick Totem, kind of a shaman healer, will cast a lot of random things, but mainly you're looking out for the heal, the great heal that must be kicked really. Guy in the middle, Hackclaw, giant warrior mob, basically an arms warrior, does Blade Storm, hits really hard, melee attacks, and when he's doing his Blade Storm, that will fixate any random player, could be the tank, could be anyone, but will move a lot slower while he pursues during the Blade Storm. So whoever is getting fixated by that, you just want to kite him away from other players. if you are the tank and you're fixated, you kind of just want to call out that you are fixated, because there's no point really running from him. You're better off just using a cooldown, a defensive, and having everybody else move away, because everything you're fighting is just going to move with you anyway, so it just makes things a little bit more chaotic, and there's no reason. Now during their intermission phases, you'll see all three mobs have an ability that interplay with each other in a unique way, and once you understand it, it makes this fight actually really easy to deal with, as you'll see. So as you can see, we're all on Trick Totem, we're just dealing with him because of the heal. And then in their intermission phase, three things will happen. So the healer will put a totem down, which will disorientate the healer. The Gash Tooth will disorientate the tank, and Hat Claw, the warrior style mob, will fixate on a player and start casting a charge towards that player, and if that player is hit, they will get one shot. So the way you deal with that phase, and you're going to see it coming up here, you can see the Hex Trick Totem going down. I'm switching to it to try and get DPS on before I'm dealt with by Gash Tooth. So now I'm disorientated, so what needs to happen is the totem needs to be killed by the DPS players, which will free the healer. The healer will then be able to dispel the tank, which gets me out of the disorientate. So then I can then stand in the way of the player being fixated by Hat Claw with the big arrow, so that I get charged and take that damage instead of that player, because the tank is the only player that can withstand that damage. Once you get that intermission down, it's fine. So you'll see here, look, Hat Claw's off doing his whirlwind. We've dealt with Trick Totem, so no more heals, so we can just focus on Gash Tooth now. You want to get Gash Tooth down fairly quickly, regardless of who you're fighting. Honestly, Hat Claw is the least important one, because he's mainly just going to be wailing on your tank, and he's easy to kite when he's doing his Blade Storm ability. Now technically you can choose to go left or right here. We're still doing the old Season 2 route. Doesn't seem to be any reason to change that up. This is just a lot of kind of nice big packs that you can pull, as long as you're kind of aware of, you know, things needing to be kicked, a lot of stuff going down on the floor that needs to be avoided, totems being spawned which need to be dealt with fairly quickly, general stuff, right? So there you go, you can see the totem go down in orange with the cross. It's not as dangerous as some of the earlier totems are, if they still happen, but generally you just, yeah, it's just a good idea to take care of them if you can, if you're not having to like kick or, you know. This area can be a bit scary. If everybody's got good cooldowns, your tank's got nice defensives to go, you can absolutely pull really big here. Only reason I'm not choosing to, again, is because we still have players here who haven't maybe seen this dungeon or don't really remember the dungeon that well, so I'm just trying to be a little bit cautious, break everybody in nice and easily. Mobs here have frontals, these slimes. It's not necessarily something your tank has to worry about. As long as you're mitigating properly, it's usually all good. Yeah, anything up to and including like 20s is all good. It certainly doesn't hurt to kind of keep some slight movement going with these packs, so that you're already moving when things do happen, like these ground effects or the frontals. Always, of course, trying to be aware that we've got an elemental shaman in the group here, so I'm trying to, you know, keep mobs relatively tight and stable and static for the earthquakes. But that would be true of, you know, frost mages, fire mages. Yeah, you want to just keep things nice and tight. Paladins. Again, here you can just go straight forward through the green. It does do dot damage standing in the green mark. But yeah, just choosing to go around the side, because I'm also pointing out there's another one of those alchemy cauldrons there. Elected not to use it. Again, it's only a 2, it's not too terrible. So these oaks now, before they used to have a kickable AoE, but now they have an unkickable frontal, avoidable frontal, so it's actually like quite nice to deal with. In a lot of ways it's a lot easier, as long as the tank you're on your toes, facing it away from the group. There is a lot of movement involved with the oaks, because they will summon extra adds as you kill them, and they also will do kind of a lot of AoE mess, and there can be a lot of movement for your tank because you're trying to pick up the extra adds. Again, look, you can see we've got a totem. Really nothing stressful. Usually quite satisfying pulls up here. Okay, this double oak pack. What I found interesting with this double oak pack, a lot of mobs that do similar abilities, Blizzard have been doing a good job of making sure they stay decoupled from each other, which means they can never overlap the same cast. But here, as you can see right there, they're both doing their frontal at the exact same time. It's not the end of the world, because it is all avoidable, again, as long as you're on your toes. Just keeping them pointed away. Easy peasy, and then we're just going to be on to the next boss. So, with Treemouth, pick him up. Know that you're as the tank, you are going to get knocked back, and anyone caught in that frontal cone will get knocked back. So again, have your players relatively close to the boss for a couple of reasons. One is to avoid that frontal cone easier, because all cones are easier to avoid if you're close. But also because these adds, the boss will turn to a random player and put slime pools down that will create adds. With the adds, you want to make sure they get kicked and stopped in any way that you can. They're like non-elite mobs, they're really easy to deal with. Any control will work on them. As you saw there, the boss kind of did his vine attack, which also puts an AoE around the boss. So anyone with the vine, the trick is the vines are going to pull you in towards the boss, and you just want to run away. It's not hard to do, but the real trick is you do want a player to volunteer to go to stay in that circle and actually get eaten. So if you're in that circle with the vine and you let yourself get dragged in by the vine, Treemouth will actually eat you. Now, when you're eaten, you will take damage for the duration while you're in him. The boss will spawn a shield, and the other players and you, because you are still completely active, you have access to all your abilities, and you should be using defensives if you're in there. But when you're in there, this shield is on him, so you can see it's happening now. This time Henry's been eaten, and we're just nuking through his shield. As soon as you nuke through his shield, he'll spit out the player and then create these adds. And you're still just dealing with the usual things. The knockback cone, dealing with these adds, making sure they don't get any of their casts off. There I used the Typhoon. And so the reason you have a player also be eaten is if everybody runs away with their vine, it will actually enrage the boss, and it'll enrage in a way that can't be soothed or tranked. So again, it's just something you want to just use a medium cooldown through, depending on the key value, of course, and whether it's tyrannical or not. Little mini boss here. Can absolutely skip this guy. We generally choose not to, because if the skip that's about to happen next goes wrong, it's actually easier to release and just have a clean path rather than trying to skip this guy again. But you can absolutely use a rock outcrop on the left hand side there and kind of skip him as he patrols back and forth. Just waiting for somebody to jump on my druid form so I can give them a lift, and then you'll see the skip here. Just kind of skirt around the kind of foothills here, dodge between mobs, and then what you really want to do, there's a patrol on the left and right here, and you want to just be patient. Don't try and be clever, and just get through them, get up on that little nook that you saw, that little grassy verge, and then you can just skip completely to the next boss. We've just cut out a whole massive middle section of the dungeon and got ourselves straight to the next boss. Really nice. And really simple to do as long as you're just patient. Don't let your tank or anyone else like rush you. You're absolutely going to be doing your entire group a much bigger favour if you just wait as long as you need, get it right. Okay, this boss actually gave this group a little bit of trouble because, again, a lot of people really kind of forget how this guy works and what's important here. So, as much as the boss is important, and we'll get to him in a minute, or her, what's really important is how you deal with the two ads, the two jackals, hyenas, whatever they are. So you'll see that players get an AoE put on them, which then puts down a trap. Obviously, you want to make sure you move out of that trap before as it goes down. But then what you really want to do, it's all about your positioning relative to those traps and relative to where the hyenas come from. You want to kite them, so if you are fixated by them, they're non-tankable obviously when they're fixating on a player, but as you can see like that, what you want to do is have them run through the trap. That will literally root them and stun them, and that's a perfectly good time for you to be able to deal with them and kill them. From the tank's point of view, a lot of what's going on here is you see you get that knockback, and you have, yeah, the boss has a thing that has to be kicked, and if no one else is paying attention, like right there, the only way I could kick the boss was to go through one of the traps, and the traps will absolutely work on all the players. So so a few things that have to happen with this fight is you need to kind of place your traps smartly, knowing that the boss can call the ads from one of two places. They will either come from the cave that you see on the upper left there, or they'll come from the right hand side, what's behind me now, which is the entrance of the room. What a lot of players tend to do, especially ranged players accidentally, is they get too up against the edge of the room, and then their traps go there, and you don't leave yourself a lot of room to adjust for where the mobs are coming from. You can see there I used the vortex on them. That'll actually keep them busy for a little while because people are still kind of standing out in the open instead of trying to get behind trap locations. And you can see the ads fixating people with the beam. Job done. Way messier there than it actually ever needs to be. The other important thing with that boss as well is, as soon as you enter the room, you have to be careful, because the first two hyenas that are part of the boss fight will absolutely patrol back and forward, and they will absolutely body aggro onto anyone who moves into the room too soon. So definitely wait for your tank. Okay, here as you can see there, we just had a mob that was casting that you just make sure you kick. It will also put some crud on the floor. Make sure you move out of it. This pull here, just pull left and right. Now there is also a patrolling, you'll see in a minute, there's a patrolling War Scourge, which you can often pick up with that pack as well. It's literally the only mob in that whole pool that's important for the same reasons. Just making sure to soothe or trank this Rage Storm, spin to win, and making sure his cackle just gets kicked. Everything else is just absolute AoE fodder. We're staying back on this slope from the last boss room. Reason being is there's a bunch of mobs ahead of us which absolutely don't need to be pulled, and that we can then do the next skip here. All you have to do is hug left. There's a little bony outcropping here which can sometimes catch you out. As long as you hug, you're all good to get into the last boss area. You can see here I'm just hugging right before patrol gets here so that I can just deal with this War Scourge. Again, you can pull other mobs with this pack, like you'll see in a minute. We deal with that pack just to the upper right there that has all the little lads with us, and we get that that guy that's patrolling. Again, you can actually pull them all together. You've got to watch for a patrolling pack right over the back. You can just see disappearing out the top of the screen. They will actually patrol really close, and there's no need to pull them. So just charging in there to make sure his initial cast got kicked, and then I'm kind of moving the whole pack kind of away again, knowing about that thing. Players will get a debuff on them with a lot of these mobs, as you'll see. Just green circles, super dangerous. The best move is, if you get that, don't be a hero, don't try and be clever. If you get the green AoE on you, just move away with it, because it will spread to other players. You can see over the back there. Also, coming round this side didn't have to be a thing. Again, it can be wise just to clean this whole area out before the last boss, just so you know accidental pulls don't happen, pets and random tabbed casts. We needed the trash anyway, and as you can see, we're not quite done, but we're just going to deal with the boss first. So you want to make sure you're down this little slope where we're all standing before you engage the boss. It will actually create kind of a death barrier behind this main room, which you'll see in a minute. It'll go green, and anyone trying to step out of the room to avoid anything will actually get one shot. So this boss here is interesting in that you don't actually kill this boss, you just need to get her down to 10%. So as you can see, there's movement involved here. So one of the things you want to watch out for, first thing, as a tank, you definitely want to watch out for and make sure your DPSs understand, is that the boss does have a frontal attack, which you'll see in a minute. So now just making sure the boss is pointed away from everyone. As soon as the frontal starts to happen, now make sure you just run through the boss, get away from it, and then this orb will spawn. So this AoE area will always move in a clockwork direction. The reason I'm keeping the boss close to it as it rotates is because the boss will spawn totems that need to die, and they will always spawn across the room opposite where the boss is. So what you don't want to do is move so far away from the AoE that the boss then puts the totem in that AoE and stops players getting to it to destroy it. And so what the totem's going to do, it will actually put a debuff on everybody if it manages to finish its cast before it's killed. Also, getting hit by the frontal will also put that same debuff on you as a player, and also getting hit by the green AoE will also put the same debuff on you. Now the debuff will stack. In and of itself, the debuff doesn't do anything. However, when the boss does his attack where each individual player's got like a green circle on them, that will then get activated, and any amount of stacks that you have will increase the damage that actually does to you. So it's really important you just avoid taking any unnecessary stacks at all from anything. Again, it's a boss that once you understand it, have the flow of it, it's really easy. Totems are the absolute priority. Keeping on your toes is a priority. Not getting hit. Easy. And yeah, we're just finishing off the extra trash here. I'm done. Okay, I hope some of you managed to get some useful info out of that, and yeah, have a good key.